Passage here, which has a lot of words and terms that are like very, 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 very difficult, which is like not a beginner friendly passage to start with. Let's start reading the passage. Free of the taint of manufacture. So, free from the taint of manufacture. Taint is kind of a negative term, which is like something that is been impurified by manufacturing. So, something has been impurified by manufacturing is what we will call as taint of man. It's tainted by manufacture. So, free of taint of manufacture means it has not yet been impurified by manufacturing, or whatever manufacturing is being spoken of in a negative sense. So, it is free from the impurification of manufacture. That is what roughly this particular term is. This particular phrase is like free of the taint of manufacture. That phrase in particular is heavily loaded with the ideology of what this Victorian socialist William Morris person is calling it anti-scraping or anti-capitalistic conservationism is what is being said, and not conservatism. Okay, we'll come back to this. That solaced itself with the vision of pre-industrial golden age. Okay, so this particular phrase, free of the taint of manufacture, this is heavily loaded the ideology of anti-scraping or anti-capitalist conservationism. Anti-scraping, what do you mean by scraping? Scraping is generally something like let's say you have something like, I am trying to scrape data off a website. It means like you try to write a coding, or you send a bot or AI tool that goes and that looks and reads all the data from a particular website, and then it shares it across to you. That is what is scraping is. Anti-scraping is kind of like something that is preventing scraping, or in this case maybe copying. Is that what is being said as anti-scraping? Maybe anti-scraping or anti some I will not let somebody to come and copy this, or an anti-capitalist conservationism. Capitalistic is more like for profit we end up manufacturing in masses, so one copy or the other copy of multiple versions of the so we'll go and manufacture thousands and thousands of identical products. So kind of anti-capitalistic conservationism. It's not like we are going to make mass production, rather we are going to preserve something that is already there. So instead of like mass production of identical things, it's kind of like we're going to preserve, kind of, I mean, that is the direction that it's going to take. So anti-scraping is like we are not going to let somebody come and copy it. Anti-capitalistic capitalism or industrialization is like where mass production happens. So anti-capitalist conservationism, as in like we will not let a mass production, but we are going to preserve something here, kind of a meaning. That solaced itself with the vision of pre-industrial golden age. So before industrialization, we did not have this mass production or copying or kind of thing. So that was a golden age. So we had a comfort in that particular age. So solaced itself is like, I think of that and I feel very, very comfortable. I think of such a period, what a golden age that was, before all these industrialization or mass manufacturing came into picture. That olden age, which did not have this mass manufacturing, which did not have this mass copying. So such an age is what that was. That's a golden age. That was a golden age, and that was free from the taint of manufacture. And I am sitting here and I'm thinking about such an olden age, a golden age, pre-industrial golden age, and I am finding comfort in such a olden or golden period. So this sentiment is what is being captured in this particular phrase, free of the taint of manufacture. Okay, let's go and read the sentence once again. Free of the taint of manufacture, which means manufacture is something bad that has come and impurified, and without the impurification of manufacture. That's what this phrase is. It is heavily loaded with the ideology of what the Victorian socialist William Morris called anti-scraping, or I will not let you copy, or anti-capitalistic conservation, I will not let you mass produce and I will preserve. It's more like, rather than mass production, we are going to preserve something kind of that comforted itself with the vision of pre-industrial golden age. Okay. In Britain, folk may appear a cosy, fossilized form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk, okay, let's for time being not read this to this, and we'll come back. In Britain, the folk may appear a quasi fossilized form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk has been contested territory. Okay. So in Britain, folk may appear quasi fossilized form, a comfortable fossilized form. So more of like fossilized as in like preserved, undisturbed. Folk may appear preserved or fossilized form, cozy, comfortably preserved form, but when you look more closely, the idea of folk has always been contested territory. Is it really something that is very very preserved, that that was not modified or something? And now when you enter into it, like the idea of folk, who has the right to sing it? From here we can see that folk abdina, it is more like folk music. So mostly like folk music or folk stories or folk art forms could be any of these things. So the idea of folk, what is the idea of folk? Who has the right to sing the folk? Who has the idea to dance the folk dance? Who has the right to invoke it or collect it or belong to it or appropriate it for political and cultural ends? That particular idea of folk has always been contested territory, which means contested territory means it's debatable. It is not clear cut. You can go out and say, oh, it is very very, it is belonging to that particular olden age only. It belongs to that preserved age only. It is not that way. When you look at it more closely, what constitutes folk has been contested or debated. So it is not like, oh, it is very preserved, untouched. It is not that way, is what the author is trying to say. In our own time, though the word folk has achieved a rare distinction of occupying fashionable and unfashionable status simultaneously. In our own time, though the word folk has achieved the rare distinction of occupying fashionable and unfashionable status simultaneously. What do you mean by like it is like folk has achieved a rare distinction of occupying fashionable and unfashionable status and simultaneously? So it's more like antique, olden period. So it is like fashionable. So it is like it is fashionable in one sense because it is antique and it's kind of precious kind of thing, and it is unfashionable because like it is olden period. So if you cannot go and use it for modern times. So in one angle, when you look at it, oh, this is antique and this is very very fashionable to kind of use this because this particular, we would have seen in day-to-day life, there would have been some kind of design, some kind of architecture. Oh, this architecture, it is 1800s architecture, this is Chettinad style house construction, etc etc, and this is a very very traditional design, and that kind of house design can also be looked at fashionable. In an alternate way, when you look at it, oh, this is nothing modern, this is like very very old only, it is not something that is fashionable, it is like very very old. So simultaneously this folk can be looked at as a fashionable and not fashionable status simultaneously. Just as the effusive floral prints of radical William Morris, the same William Morris that we have discussed there, the radical William Morris means somebody who is trying to bring in a change, somebody who is trying to bring in change. Here do you see both opposite meanings existing simultaneously together, fashionable as well as unfashionable, right? Now, just as the floral prints of radical William Morris now cover gentle sofas, so the revolutionary intentions of many folk historians and revivalists have led to music that is commonly regarded as parochial and conservative. Okay, very similar to floral prints, kind of a flower designs of, or the mark of radical William Morris now covers genteel sofas. Most likely it means like earlier it was a revolutionary thing, radical thing as in like something that has never been seen before. So William Morris's ideas have been revolutionary or radical or something that is very very new, but that was how it was there initially, but now it covers kind of everywhere. Now that idea is there everywhere. So similar to that, the revolutionary intentions of many folk historians and revivalists. So revivalists as in like we need to bring back that folk art form once again. That is what you will call as a revivalist. The revolutionary intentions of many folk historians and revivalists. So these people, this folk historians and revivalists, they were trying to make it revolutionary, as in like nothing like before. This is the first of its kind. It's a revolutionary. It's a new thing. That was their intention, but that has led to music that is commonly regarded as parochial and conservative. It is more like, hey, nobody is trying to revive this folk music, man. It is very, very, it is tradition. Nobody is trying to revoke it. And we are trying to revive it. We are trying to bring it back. And that is a revolutionary intention. We are doing it for the first time. Nobody has done it before us. So revolutionary intention is what they were having when they were trying to revive and they were trying to bring back that folk music and folk art form and etc. But it has led to music that is commonly regarded as parochial and conservative. So it's kind of like opposite meanings existing together, like how fashionable and unfashionable, right? So you were planning to bring back something for the first time and trying to be revolutionary, but that is actually has led to a music that is considered as conservative. So that opposite meanings, and yet newspaper columns periodically rejoice, focus hip again, influencing art is hip again. Most likely it is more like it is talk of the town again, it is trending again, because it is influencing artists, clothing, furniture designers, etc., and it is being celebrated at music festivals. It is award ceremonies, on TV, reissued on countless record labels, etc., etc., etc. So it's kind of an oxymoron, kind of an opposite meanings. You were trying to do something revolutionary, but that is considered as a conservation or conservative thing or like old thing only. But still, even then, folk is actually trending. Folk kind of thing is very trending. It is influencing artists, clothing, furniture designers, etc. So it is more like I am trying to do revolutionary. So it is like kind of new. I thought I'm going to do something revolutionary, but it is kind of traditional thing only. It is gone to it has given rise to a music that is kind of traditional, but hey, wait, it is actually trending only. So it's kind of like you thought it is this, but it is this. You thought it is this, but it is this, kind of oxymorons here. So it is trending. Folk is a sonic. Sonic is like something to do with music. Sonic shabby chic, containing elements of uncanny and eerie, as well as an antique veneer, a whiff of Britain's heathen dark ages. So it is kind of containing elements of uncanny. So uncanny is something that we will generally use for uncanny resemblance. It is like a kind of resembling something. So it is kind of resembling something, as well as an antique veneer. Antique veneer. Veneer is like something that is covering. So it has an antique veneer, which means like it is having a cover that it is more like it is one thing, but it is showing as another thing, kind of meaning. And it's a whiff of Britain's. It is resembling Britain's dark ages. So folk is a music that kind of resembles something old, and it is kind of something inside, and it is kind of showing something else outside, and it is also resembling it kind of antique veneer, as it's more like it has a cover of the olden times kind of. It's more like it resembles olden period. It resembles the dark ages. So folk is trending, but it still resembles the dark age. Once again, it is trending, but it is still resembling the olden dark ages. So it's kind of opposite meanings. So let's go and look at this particular paragraph once again. It has achieved a rare distinction of occupying fashionable at the same time unfashionable. Let's look at all the to's and fro's and thing. Just as the effusive floral prints of radical William Morris. So William Morris, what did he? So he his prints. It is radical, but now it was radical, but now it is there everywhere. So similarly, revolutionary intentions, they thought, okay, we are going to create it for the first time, we are going to revive it for the first time, we are going to revive the olden music for the first time, etc. They tried doing it, but what that revival has led to music that is commonly considered as conservative. So you thought you are going to do this for the first time as a revolutionary thing, but it has led to something that is traditional or old. But that being said, it is trending again. It is trending again. Everybody, from influencers, artists, clothing, furniture, everybody is doing this. However, it is still resembling the old and dark times, etc. That is what is being said. It's a sonic shabby containing elements of uncanny. It is resembling something old. It has a cover of an olden time. It kind of resembles an olden period. It is resembling Britain's dark ages. So that is what is being said here. The very obscurity and anonymity of folk music's origins open up space for rampant imaginative fancies. The very obscurity and anonymity of folk music's origins, like obscure isn't like not very clear. Who created this kind of thing? Opens up space for rampant imaginative fancies. So there's an element of open imagination thing here. Okay. Cecil Sharp, who wrote about the subject, believed that folk songs existed in a constant transformation. Cecil Sharp, okay, somebody who wrote about this, believed that folk songs, it is not like a fixed thing, but rather it is something that constantly keep evolving. It keeps evolving. It keeps changing. A living example of an art form in a perpetual state of renewal. It kind of kept renewing over time. Initially, it was like this. Then it became like this. Then it became like this. It kind of kept changing. One man sings a song, okay, and then others sings it after him, okay, changing what they do not like. So there was a version one that was being created. Then another person sang it, and then what he did was he removed all the parts that he didn't like it, and then he only kept the parts that he liked it. Then this person gave rise to version 3, and this guy would have modified it as per his likes and dislikes, etc. So it keeps modifying. That is what is constant changing. Constant changes happening. That's what Mr. Cecil Sharp is telling. And then others sing it after him, changing what they do not like, is the most concise summary of his conclusions on its origin. So this is how the origin is. So if you look at origin, okay, then the question is like, which version are you speaking about? If you're speaking about version 3, the origin is here. Version 2, the origin is here. Version 1, the origin is here. So it's very unclear which version started where and all those things. He compared each rendition of a ballad. Ballad is like more like a poem or a song kind of thing, to an acorn falling from an oak tree. Every subsequent iteration sows the song anew. It's more like from a tree, a seed falls down, and then from that seed, another tree comes, and that tree will give rise to another seed, and it keeps repeating in cycles. So that cycle, or this each and newer version, this is the parent tree, it gave rise to the next generation tree, and then from here another seed went and gave rise to another tree, etc, etc. Similarly, the songs also kept modifying as time progressed. And every subsequent iteration shows the song anew. Okay, the song became newer and newer, but there is a tension in this newness. There is some tension in this newness. What is it? In the late 1960s, purists were suspicious. They were not very comfortable of the folk songs recast in rock idioms. So in 1960s, purists as the name suggests, purists, these people were like kind of believing, that particular song, the original version of that song, that was the best song. But you know what you have done? You have done all those remixes and changes and modifications, and we are not very comfortable with the newer versions of the songs that you have created. So these purists were not very comfortable with the modified versions of the folk songs that were recast in recent times. Electrification, however, comes in many forms. For the early 20th century composers such as Vaughan William and Holst, there were thunderbolts of inspiration from Oriental mysticism, angular modernism, and a body blow of the First World War, as well as inputs from the rediscovered folk tradition itself. Okay, so what they are trying to say here is electrification. Most likely by electrification what they mean is like the inspiration, because here thunderbolts of inspiration is being mentioned here, and electrification I'm assuming must be like inspiration. So inspiration can come in many forms. So basically inspiration, what do you mean by inspiration? I took this version 1 as inspiration and I created version 2, and then from here either that, or there could be some events that happened during my time and using that I created a version of a song. Could be anything. Inspiration could come from many forms. For the early 20th century composers, early 20th century, 1900s. So that kind of period, in that period, there were these people, Vaughan Williams and Holst. There were thunderbolts of inspirations from there. They had many inspirations. There is something called Oriental mysticism. There is something called angular modernism. There is something called First World War. There is something called rediscovered folk tradition. So these are 4 subjects. From these 4 subjects, they had inspiration. What are those 4 subjects? Are they relevant to us? Let's see. But we can assume that, okay, these are some 4 subjects from which these 1900s people, they took inspiration from. Point number 1. Point number 2. For the second wave of folk revivalists as in people who are going to try to bring this folk music back. So these folk revivalists such as Ewan McCall and the so and so person, starting in the 1940s. So in 1940s, the inspiration was communist dream of a post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. Okay, so in 1940s, for these people, inspiration was this. Okay, for their younger successors in 60s. So in 1960s, this is 3 who thronged the folk club set up by their old god. The lyrical freedom of Dylan and the unchained melodies of psychedelia created conditions for folk rock's own golden age, a brief Indian summer that lasted from 1969 to 1971. So basically there are 3 things. So what they are trying to say from here itself is inspiration can come from any place. For example, for this 1900s people, inspiration came from 1, 2, 3, 4 subjects. And for 1940s people, inspiration came from this communist dream, etc. And for 1960s people, inspiration came from this and this subject. Okay, and that the 1960s and that created conditions for folk rock's own golden age. So this is another golden age, 1969 to 1971. That is what they are trying to say. This is a golden age. So similar to pre-industrial golden age, this is folk rock's own golden age. It's another golden age. 4 decades on. So most likely the passage was written in 2009 to 11 period. 4 decades on, even the progressive period has become one more era used for fashionable emulation and pastiche. So basically what they are trying to say, okay, you thought, okay, 1969 to 1971 is the most special thing. But no, even that is yet another folk period to take fashion from. Okay, that period, no, it is fashionable emulation. Emulation is like I kind of try to imitate somebody else. So I can try to imitate or emulate from the 1969 to 1970. So it is also not something that is true. That is also something, one other thing to take inspiration or copy from or something like that. The idea of folk tradition being exclusively confined to oral transmission. Oh, you are thinking that the folk tradition is something that is only through oral transmission, from verbal way only it will keep transmitting from one person to another person. That idea also has become much looser, less severely guarded concept, which means It is not the case anymore. Earlier, many decades ago, even a century ago, if you go and see, oral transmission is the only way folk tradition or folk music or folk songs used to get transmitted. That lady sang, then her daughter sang, then her daughter sang, etc. That is the only way. But now that is not the case. Recorded music and televisions are where the equivalent of folk memories are seeded in today's generation. So this is the entire passage. Oh, it is a very, very heavy passage with so many difficult words. Now let's quickly go ahead and look at the questions. All the following are the causes of plurality and diversity within the British folk tradition, except. So plurality as in like many different and diversity, different types of views and standpoints within the British folk traditions. All of the following are the causes except. So we'll go and identify three of them are causes. One of them is not a cause, which is a cause and not a cause. Paradoxically, folk forms are both popular and unpopular. It appears as though it is very, very given, right? Fashionable and unfashionable. Okay, we'll come back to option A. Option B, the fluidity of folk form owing to their history of oral mode of transmission. Yes, historically it was through oral mode of transmission, right? If you look at it, where was it? One man sings a song, then another sings a song after him, changing what they do not like, etc., etc. So plurality, as in like there are different versions. Within the British folk music, there are different versions. How did this different version come? Which are the causes? Of course, oral mode of transmission will create version 1, then version 2. This guy will create version 3, etc., etc. And you would have got different versions, which is diversity, and many versions, which is plurality. Yes, this looks like a good cause. So option B looks like a good cause, but we do not want causes. We want which is not a cause. So C option, that British folk songs can be traced to the remote past of the country. I'll come back to this point. It's this question. This point. I have a small question mark. I'll come back to this. Option D. The British folk continues to have traces of pagan influence from the Dark Ages. Is it a cause or not? See, it can be traced to the remote past of the country. Yes, it is. It can be. See, one way of looking at it would be, yes, it has been traced to the golden age. So folklores, they started from the golden age, etc. So it is given, right? So golden, pre-industrial golden age. It is from a very, very olden period. So in one aspect, if you look at it, is it from a remote past? Yes. Another aspect, if you look at it, can it be traced actually to a past? Because when you look at this end of the second paragraph, the very obscurity and anonymity of folk music's origins is being mentioned here. So which means we are not really sure about where it is origined. So how can I go and say it can be traced? So in one aspect, this looks good. In one aspect, how can I identify the origin? Origin cannot be traced as actually given in the passage. So this option is kind of debatable. Now D option, British folk continues to have traces of pagan influence from the Dark Ages. Pagan influence from the Dark Ages. Yes, it is actually mentioned. Kind of dark. It is. Where is it? So it contains elements of uncanny resemblance from the Dark Ages. So because of it, some people may find it fashionable, some people may not find it fashionable, kind of in that passage, right? In this particular passage. So in this particular passage, we had one of the sentences this. So is it true? It is actually factually it is given. Whether it is a cause is yet to be seen. But even though this had a lot of doubts, this also is factually given, but is it cause? The only one option that I can clearly tell, at least from my perspective, I can very clearly tell as a cause is this. So this is definitely a cause. This, firstly, is it factually correct or not? I still have a doubt. And secondly, is it factually correct? I don't know. Is it a cause? I don't know. Whereas this, it is factually correct, but is it a cause? I don't know. Now coming back to option A. Paradoxically, folk forms are both popular and unpopular. Is it a cause? Forget about the cause. It is factually itself is wrong. Why is it factually wrong? The reason it is factually wrong is the passage said that British folk things are fashionable and unfashionable. Fashionable and unfashionable is different from popular and unpopular. See, popular and unpopular means, popular means many people know it. Unpopular means many people do not know it. Now, within popular itself, you can go and say that it is fashionable and it is unfashionable. Fashionable as in many people know it and they also like it. Unfashionable is like they do not appreciate it. Oh, this is not something that we'll consider as trendy or something. This is something that we do not appreciate it. So we popular and popular is like many people know it, people don't even know it is unpopular. But the passage speaks about fashionable and unfashionable. Fashionable isn't like would you consider as a good taste? Would you consider as a bad taste? That is different from do many people know it or people don't even know it. So it appears as a very strongly factually wrong option. Therefore, because it is factually wrong itself, it can definitely not be the cause of this particular. Therefore, this is something that I will go ahead and choose it. Even though C option and D option I was not convincingly able to detect as, oh, these are causes, I am able to infer that option A is factually wrong and therefore the other options must have been causes. Now let's quickly move on to second question. At a conference on folk forms, the author of the passage is least likely to agree with which of the one of the following views. So three options he will agree and one option he will not agree. Which of the option is he agreeing and which of the option is he not agreeing? Let's go and try to classify. Folk forms describe their archaic origins remains intellectually relevant in contemporary times. It is relevant because a lot of influencers are using it, art forms, clothes, etc. etc. It was artists, clothing, furniture designers, it is celebrated, award ceremonies, etc. etc. So is it intellectually relevant in contemporary times? Yes, author would agree to this particular point. So this is not our answer. We want a point which the author will not agree. Folk forms, in their ability to constantly adapt to changing world, exhibit an unusual poise and homogeneity with each change. Oh, heterogeneity would have made this point correct. Homogeneity is like something. See, folk forms, what they are doing, they are constantly changing, and because of constant changing, version 1, version 2, version 3, are they becoming similar versions or different versions? Obviously different versions, right? Therefore, they exhibit heterogeneity with each change would have been something the author would have agreed. And because it is mentioned as homogeneity, homogeneity means everything is becoming similar. Of course, it is not becoming similar. Different versions are getting modified in different ways by different people. Therefore, the author will very strongly disagree with this. So this is the answer we are looking at. But we'll still quickly read at options C and D. Power of folk resides in contradictory ability to influence and be influenced by the present while remaining rooted in the past. Yes, both present and past is being exhibited. So there was something that we saw. No, it is kind of trending, but it also resembles a past trend, etc. etc. So it is kind of both present and past are being involved here. So this looks like something the author will agree. The plurality and democratizing impulse of folk forms emanate from improvising that its practitioners bring to it. Of course, they keep improvising it, and because of it is. So this is something that the author will definitely agree. So this also author will agree. So for this option, for the second question, the answer is B. Third question, the primary purpose of the reference to William Morris and his floral prints is to show what was floral prints, as in like he was very radical. There was an adjective that was radical William Morris. So he thought he brought something that was new, but that was there everywhere on all the sofas kind of thing, but it is not so much new. It is very traditional kind of it is there everywhere kind of thing. So what is once regarded as radical in folk can later be seen as conformist. Looks good. This is an option that I would still keep in contention. Despite its anarchic origins, folk music continues to remain a popular tradition. It continues to remain popular despite its archaic origins. So whether it is okay, we'll come back to B also. See the pervasive influence of folk on contemporary art, culture, and fashion. It's not about, the subject is not even about art, cultural, and fashion and all. So as here it is telling, it is influencing the art, cultural, and fashion, and giving more importance to these subjects. So this is not the reason why he is bringing that. That was once, what was once derided as genteel is now considered as revolutionary. Gentile up, then I think gentile is more like something that is already there for a while. So actually the reverse of this is true. What was once considered as revolutionary is now considered as gentile. Could have been correct if the reverse could have been right. Even then, derided is something that carries a negative tone. Such a tone the author would not have taken. So either ways, these two things are not there. So one of these two has to be the right answer. What is once regarded as radical? Radical William Morris, but it is there everywhere. It can later seen to be as conformist, as in like everybody is starting to use this kind of. So despite this looks like a very good option. What about B? That despite its archaic origin, it continues to remain popular. So it is not like archaic or old has now become popular. No, that is not the contention. It is more like you thought you brought something new, but it is actually traditional. So this is the view that we are searching for, and that is given by option A. It's not like, oh, you thought it was old, but it is popular. No, you thought it was radical, but it is being seen as conformist. Conformist as in like everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants to do that. So that is something that you thought something that is new, that only you will end up doing, but everybody else is starting to do it. Something that has now become a traditional thing that everybody wants to do. So option A looks like a good one. Which of the following statements about folk revivalism of the 1940s and 1960s cannot be inferred from the passage? 1940s and 60s, you remember that last paragraph where we discussed about the second wave of folk. See, basically inspiration can come from anywhere. 1900s inspiration we saw here, 1940s inspiration we saw in 1940s inspiration here, and 1960s inspiration here. So this 1940s and 60s, so we need to, this is a question about that, so let's quickly read about this. Inspiration can come from anywhere. The second wave of folk revivalists as so-and-so person starting in the 40s, the vital spark was communist dream of a post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. So communism's dream of, okay, we will do revolution and we'll create a new Jerusalem. So such an idea inspired them in the 1940s. In the 1960s, lyrical freedom of Dylan and unchained or unrestricted melodies of psychedelia. So something to do with like, we are not restricted, freedom is more important, that kind of a concept in 1960s created the conditions for folk rock's old golden age, etc., etc. So this is what it is. And 4 decades on, even that progressive period has become just one more area for replication or emulation. Now going into option. Which of the following statements about folk revivalism of the 1940s and 60s cannot be inferred? Electrification of music would not have happened without the influence of rock music. Inspiration of music would not have happened without the influence of rock music. It looks like a very, very strong statement. It is trying to say this is the only reason why inspiration of music has happened. Whatever it is, it looks like very, 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 very strong statement. I'm really not sure like if such a statement would have been said, but let's quickly look at the other options. It reinforced Cecil Sharp's observation about folks' constant transformation. Of course, constantly it keeps getting transformed. Initially, the inspiration was from here, then inspiration came from here, then inspiration came from here, etc., etc. So there is a constant change in things. So it kind of reinforces. So this can be inferred. Even though it led to folk rock's golden age, it wasn't entirely free from critique. Yes, it led to folk rock's old golden age. But for 40 years later, people are coming and telling, oh, it is also one more year like from which you can go and copy fashion. So there is also people who are coming and trying to. It's not like full criticism, but kind of like, oh, this is also yet another period like this only. It is not that special kind of thing. So okay, to reasonable extent, this also can be inferred. Freedom and rebellion were popular themes during the second wave. Of course, there was the freedom and rebellion. So here, if you look at it, post-revolutionary New Jerusalem. So that is more like a revolutionary rebellion kind of thing. And here, unchained melodies and lyrical freedom of. So basically, kind of we want to break away. We don't want to be chained, etc., etc. So this also, to an extent, can be inferred. But this is very, very strong. Without the influence of rock music, inspiration of music only would not have happened. They are giving too much weightage to this rock music, which cannot be inferred. Therefore, the right answer for question number 4 is option A. The author says that folk may appear cozy, fossilized form because the author says the folk may appear cozy, fossilized form. Why is he saying this? Okay, it may appear like a comfortable, preserved form, but when you look at it, it is not the case. Why do you think it is like very, very comfortable thing? He actually gave an, he started the first paragraph with, okay, free from the taint of manufacture. So even before the industrial age, there was one age, and that was, this particular idea, it took comfort in it took solace in the idea, the vision of pre-industrial golden age. So you are sitting back and you are sitting and thinking about the olden time. Oh, before that industrial age, what a time it was, man. That was a golden time. And such a time it was. And I'm finding comfort in it. So, and when I'm finding comfort in such an age, that age folk may appear preserved, cozy, fossilized. So because I'm thinking about that olden period with such a I even called it as a golden age, with such a comfort. I'm thinking about it. I find the same level of comfort in folk music. Cozy mean also the solace means also comfort. This cozy means also comfort. So I find a similar comfort in thinking that it's very, very preserved, but it is not. So here, if you go and see, it has led to several debates and disagreements, not relevant. It's nostalgic association with the pre-industrial past. Yes, this is what we are going to do. We're going to take, because if you look at it, in the first paragraph, what is the author trying to say? When you think of free from the taint of manufacture, before the industrial age came and spoiled everything, before that, that was a wonderful golden age. That age we had one comfort. And this Britain folk is often compared with such a comfort and comfort oriented preserved form. So basically what you are doing is you are thinking about very, very olden time, and then you are trying to reminisce from it. So the nostalgic association of a pre-industrial past is the right answer here. It has been arrogated for various political and cultural purpose. No, it has been arrogated. Folk is a sonic shabby chic with an antique veneer. No. So it is straightforward. Option B, you can see that nostalgic association. When I think of this pre-industrial thing, I find a nostalgia and I find a comfort there. And author says that I find comfort. You know how that period was? That period was undisturbed period. People did not come and do any mass production. People did not try to copy one thing from the other. Such an age, such an undisturbed area. And that is how I am thinking this folk is also like fossilized, preserved, comfortable. So author says it may appear like this because you are nostalgic about the past, thinking that past is like untouched, untainted. So similarly, folk music also will be cozy, untouched, fossilized, etc., etc. So for fifth question, the answer is B. One of the very toughest passages that we can come across. It is very difficult to go and understand and imagine how you would be able to solve this during exam. So inside an exam hall, the best strategy for such a RC would be to skip it. So such an RC, if we end up getting stuck, it is very difficult to go and solve it in under like 10 minutes or 12 minutes. And even then, the accuracy may take a hit. So I would not call this as my first preferred RC in a paper. In a paper, if I come across such an RC, I would skip it, go to the other RCs and then see how the other RCs, and based on, most likely this will be the tougher RC in a particular paper. Forget about in a paper. Across years, if you have to pick a top few tough RCs, this RC would be one such RCs. So during practice times, yes, students should definitely go and spend time reading such passages and trying to solve questions. But after preparation inside exam hall, if such an RC comes, no, that's not the place where I would want to go and pick up this RC. So this is only for practice outside. Inside exam hall, skipping such a tough RC is the best way to go ahead.